I want to talk to men.
Why?
Yeah, this is definitely something a little different from what you usually get, but I've been seeing some things with men lately that's been disturbing. You can argue it's probably propaganda in some cases, but you see videos of people saying weird shit, and you start to realize we're kind of in a weird spot. We're not in a good place. Men, you're not happy, okay? A lot of y'all are not happy, and I know why. And so I just kind of want to say something to y'all. You know, now this is not to say all men, by no means, of course not. This, some of y'all men, you're doing your thing, you're working them 9 to 5s, you working hard, maybe you're working triple shifts, quadruple shifts, working 3 jobs, taking care of your family, taking care of yourself, doing your thing, y'all doing good, I appreciate, y'all deserve all the appreciation. In fact, I need to give y'all something, he's Ultimate Spider-Man #1. This is a good run. It's Peter Parker, as a family man and actually becoming Spider-Man. Check this out. It's a gift for you. Y'all doing y'all thing. I need to talk to the other men though. The men who have kind of lost their ways. I'm seeing so many cases of many men falling into weird trappings that I can't beat around the bush anymore. It's Nazism. Too many men are starting to fall into Nazism, and it's pretty bad. It's pretty weird. Now, I don't want to believe it's a majority, but it's definitely an alarming number. Now, in America, it's not likely, I don't believe for 1 second, that the full Nazi party will ever work within this country. It's too diverse. It's just not feasible. But to the men who are finding Nazism okay, or finding that they connect with it, we gotta talk. To a lot of you young conservative types, I think we just need to have a discussion on a few things. I think for the most part, I see so many of y'all falling into traps about, birth rates. And I'm seeing this pro-natilism movement, which is just code for Nazism. I don't want to be kind to Nazis, okay? We don't need to be kind to no fucking Nazis. So I just want to talk to y'all for real. That is not something you should be concerned with. This birth rates of the world. It's weird to think you need to worry about that. You know what I mean? You're an independent adult. You should live your life how you want. You should not think you have some ultimate mission. As a man, I want to say there is no ultimate mission. There is none. There is no standard. That's something as a man in my 30s wants to say to young men nowadays, and to even boys, that there's no standard, okay? Your granddad and your dad, your uncles, whoever who taught you, your friends, your teachers, your male teachers and such, whoever, your coaches, if they taught you this idea that your worth is all in your labor and what you owe to someone else or some higher being, you should put that to rest, okay? Life is about what you want to make of it, okay? If you want to be a lawyer, you can go for that, If you want to just be an artist who just wants to create these characters or abstract paintings and such, go do that, No one should stop you from doing the things you love. And a lot of these people, a lot of these men, a lot of them become incels. And this is really something that's always been fascinating to me, is the incel movement. Men, involuntarily celibate. Those men who feel society has betrayed them and feels that, they can't get laid because of the standards that society has placed on men. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, there have been unnecessary standards placed on men as well as women. Like, this is something that's been placed on everybody, and it's not something that people inherently want to keep around. People have been wanting to break these standards for a long time and have tried constantly, but it's really hard to when people keep falling back into the trappings of it. Sometimes not their own fault, sometimes it is, but in many cases we don't need to fall into the traps that we have to do we don't need to go into this belief that we need to have the nuclear family be the absolute standard of living. I think we think we're on this mission to make sure, like, oh, these declining birth rates, we must kick them up. Why? What compels you to believe we need to have anything to do with that? The human race will live on just fine. You know, we're not declining. We reached 8 billion just recently. So I don't see how there's no reason to think about that in any regard. And I know it's I know it's easy to want to find a goal. You know, you want to find purpose. The biggest thing is a lot of you all are lonely. You incels are very lonely, you know. And so I'm not an incel, never been one. I feared ever becoming one. So, but you know, so I just want to talk to y'all before you go become Elliot Rodger. That's the biggest problem, is that most incels, the road leads either to Elliot Rodger or sadly offing themselves, people. And I think a lot of it is a problem of these are men or boys who are left all by themselves and nobody to talk to. You know, they can't get off dumb thoughts. And we'll be honest, a lot of men, a lot of boys have dumb thoughts. You know, our life expectancy is short. We are curious beings, and sometimes we try to chase that curiosity, and you know, curiosity kills the cat sometimes. But with boys, they have sometimes bad thoughts, or they have dumb thoughts that they fear judgment for. And so that's why they need space to be able to talk about these things with somebody without facing judgment. And so that's another thing. A lot of them, that's why they hide. You know, that's why a lot of incels hide themselves. They fear saying something incorrect and getting their head bit off. That's why a lot of men don't take well to social media, and which exacerbates the problem at the end of the day. It does. And so that's why, thankfully, more people are starting to take a step back from it. And so, though I say that ironically, I know the irony in that is the fact that I'm saying this on social media to you, but neither here nor there. But it's one of those things where I think these boys, they're left alone. They don't get to talk to anybody, and sometimes people throw stats at them. You know, I don't want to be an FD signifier type or anything like other like cornbread tubers who, you know, just throw stats and statistics at you. I'm someone who did go to college, but I'm not someone I'm someone who understands the street smarts and the book smarts sometimes don't need to converge all the time, or don't exactly mesh it that well. Or more or less, I know it's at the end of the day, we got to talk to each other in different languages. You know, I'm not going to speak to you with a bunch of charts and statistics that at the end of the day, maybe you don't even understand that well. You know, you see a chart and you wonder, what are these numbers supposed to mean? Even if it is, you know, well, even if the chart has all the right things, or even if the chart is even if the chart has all the information about it, it can throw people off, you know. But so I just want to speak to you for real. You know, I think a lot of these boys, they sadly don't have anyone to lean on. You know, they don't have father figures, and it's not a matter of, and a lot of the time it's not a matter of the fathers not wanting to be there. Sometimes, most of the time, the fathers do want to be there. But the problem is they're stuck in a capitalist system that's telling them you need to work all those hours and make so little money. But somehow it's your fault, even though you are doing the best you can. You know, a lot of your dads, or in many cases, they get locked up for small, like dime bags. You know, my generation, a lot of our fathers got popped for that stuff, and so that's why a lot of us ended up having father issues, you know, or daddy issues like that. It happens. You know, a lot of our dads come from either war or came from hard military life. And so it's a problem of boys were never allowed to be soft, you know. Boys were never allowed to express emotion without something going wrong, you know. I mean, or boys are never allowed to express their emotion without getting judged for it, you know, even though at the end of the day, we're all emotional beings. And this is something women have been facing these problems too. They've been facing these problems for a long time. In fact, the thing is, a lot of these tactics, that are hitting men, it's crazy enough that they're starting to affect us a little more now, even though we've seen these tactics for basically centuries, back to the olden days, that when women couldn't even show ankle type stuff. And so it's one of those things where it's like we didn't recognize the tactics are now being foisted upon us. You see stuff like Andrew Tate trying to tell men how to live their life, that you need to waste all your money buying cars and clothes or stuff like that. We had rap songs, I grew up on them, and some of them were bangers. I listened to them, I still listen to them, but I recognize at the end of the day, those are fake lives. It's fantasy. It's not supposed to be a standard of living like that, especially since it's mostly wasteful, but neither here nor there. A lot of these boys were fed lies about what they are supposed to become. Sometimes they watch the hero's journeys, and it's usually made to let them believe they're supposed to be the leaders of everything and not someone who works within a community. Boys are taught to believe, boys are led to believe that they're the absolute one, that they're the only one that can handle the situation. They get foisted all this stuff put on them, like these dumbass nuclear family stuff. Like, I'm sorry, boys. I'm sorry, y'all. Men, boys, everybody. Your dad, like I said, your dad, your uncles, your granddad, they lied to you, okay? Like, you're not gonna find pure happiness in a relationship like that. I'm in a relationship and I am happy, but that is not just because of the relationship. I was also pretty happy before the relationship. So it's not just my happiness comes from the fact that I have friends, that I go out, that I have hobbies, that I do stuff with other people and for other people. I try to be a human being. That's what a lot of these boys and men are missing, is they're missing community. And I think once that's something, and a lot of them just need to recognize that, don't fall into this Nazism. Don't worry about the birth rates. That is not a concern, okay? You should never worry about global problems to that degree, because you're not going to play a big part in it anyway, We're not in collapse to that degree, okay? Yes, some people are just not having kids. More people are not having kids when it comes to the US, but that's because of bad living standards. That's it. It's not because, women are holding out. That's something I need to talk to y'all big time about. Your problems with women, it's got to calm down, man. It's got to stop, actually. It's got to just stop. Like, it's insane to have these problems. I get it. High school, elementary through high school was rough. It probably was very rough. But you also have to remember, you were a dumbass teenager just like those girls in school. You were a dumbass teenager just like those girls in school, man. Okay? You didn't know what you were doing just like they didn't know what the fuck they were doing. Did they hurt you? I'm sure they did. I'm sure it hurt. But at the same time, are they still around you? Like, it's no reason to hold on to that, they'll tell you nostalgia is really good, that you should keep holding on to the past. It's like, no, but then you won't move forward. You don't learn like that. You can't grow if you just worry about what happened in your past, okay? Unless you did some absolutely atrocious shit. If you've done some SA shit, you deserve punishment. You should have been punished before that long ago. And so, reap what you sow. But regardless, when we're talking like some minor stuff that's like, okay, it's not within criminality, you didn't physically hurt anybody, maybe you hurt someone emotionally, you could feel bad about it and reflect on it. If anything, that's important for men. We need to be able to properly reflect, but reflecting doesn't have to just be isolating ourselves and just thinking and leaving ourselves to stew in those thoughts. It can also be talking to people. Talk to your parents. Like, I think your parents can appreciate you having a genuine, honest conversation. Now, I recognize not everyone's situation is the same. That's why I say try to find someone else. A stranger can become a friend real quick by just simply saying hello. Okay? I think something like that, like being able to find more friends, just being able to talk to people, that's going to help you grow more than just wallowing away and stewing within whatever small hobby you do have, and that's all you have. You know, you got to go outside, you got to talk to friends, you got to talk to family. If you have some, now again, if you have different situations where family is not an option, again, I'd say this: a stranger can become a friend by simply saying hello. I say it again, okay? Like, that's just something I think a lot of men need nowadays, is that they need structure. I think more men just need to understand, it's like, you need community. You need to be able to talk to people, and talk to people outside of just your own gender, you know? Like, you're afraid of women, but the thing is, women, they can basically be just like dudes. Okay? The problem is you put women on a pedestal in your heads, and then it results in you thinking they're someone unapproachable. You think they're inhuman. You think there's beyond human. And then now you're not realizing, oh wait, they're basically just the same as me. They're different, obviously physically, but regardless of anything, we can still communicate. We can still talk on equal levels, you know? And so you just need to recognize that this idea that you need to control women, that you need to be the man of the house, that you need to be the only one making wages to sustain the house, especially in an economy where the average household needs like $100K just to be able to maintain it nowadays. Like, come on now. Like, why would you want that stress? Why would you want that stress? Have you ever seen someone with that level of stress really come out of it okay? Maybe, and I'm not talking about they have all the stuff they want, you know. I'm talking they seem happy. I mean, genuinely happy. Like, they talk to you about stuff outside of any monetary stuff, and they're just like talking to you about a good feeling of something, you know. I think that's something more men need to just understand. It's like, money is never buys us happiness, okay? I know it sounds like a dumb platitude, but it can't buy happiness. And so to chase it and to want to keep having all of it, like these rich assholes in charge of our presidency, like, you don't want to be like them. They're miserable. You think they look happy? You think those old men from close to the Depression era look happy? They look sad. They look miserable. They look like they ain't fucking years. Or, you know, like, that's not a man you want to idolize. You want to idolize a regular blue collar man, a man who just does his thing, minds his business, or, you know, is doing his thing in his community, is talking to people, hanging out with friends, enjoys his hobbies, goes home to his family type stuff. You want to honor those type of men, you know? You don't want to honor an Andrew Tate, the fucking losers those are. Those are guys who got beat up sometime in their lives by life in general and never really learned how to recover from it. You know, those were damaged men who maybe they can be saved, but they are beyond willing. They are not people you should ever idolize, especially not boys. Like, please. I just want this to be a message to all men, because I think this is a genuine problem. I think that a lot of men are having, that is easy to solve with just simply saying, I need help. Admit that you need some help. Go talk to a friend and really genuinely go talk to your friends and say, I'm not feeling good. I'm glad more men are trying out therapy. I'm in therapy myself, and it's going pretty good. I like it. And so I say, even if therapy is not an option for you, I still say go out, talk to people. You know, a stranger is just a friend until you say hello. Okay? Like, please, like, just be willing to notice your pain and be willing to communicate it. I think more y'all have that strength within you to really do something for yourself, but you don't want to believe that. You know, you want to let somebody else tell you how you should feel, and it's like, no. True independence is being able to know your own feelings, you know? Know feelings, know what joy is, know what sadness is, you know what jealousy is, and to be able to understand and be able to navigate those feelings when they hit you. You know, I'm grateful as a man who grew up around women that I feel that I have this understanding of emotions to a better degree. You know, I had men in my life and I had women in my life to be able to help me grasp all of this stuff, as well as non-binary people and trans people in my life to really get a even bigger, broader sense of what it all could mean. You know, there is no standard. That's just something I want y'all to get. But that's just a thought.